So we are ready to start the second part of session A of the morning session. We continue with the presentation of UNIDO on the list of industrial products. So I give the floor to Fernando. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. So I don't have a presentation, so I will just give a few words about this third part of the international guidelines on industrial statistics. So I think everybody knows the IRIS, the International Recommendations, which is the general manual, the main one, and also the IIP, the International Recommendations on the IIP, which is the compilation guidance for the IIP. But there's a third product that not a lot of people know about, which is the list of industrial products. So this is a very old product. I think it was developed back in the 70s. So it has a long history. It was the idea was to not only look at the statistics from the point of view of the economic activity, but also from the products, so that then the countries could collect information at the product level and have an idea of production in value terms, in volume terms, of this list of products. That was not only products coming from enterprises active in industrial sectors, but also somehow adjacent. There were also some agricultural products, some mining products there that were also relevant, either as inputs or somehow related to products from industrial enterprises or industrial establishments. Unfortunately, then this list was updated for the last time in 2004. So at that time, we had CPC 1.1, and since then it has not been updated. So it's now, there has been 2 revisions to the CPC framework. There has been a lot of changes in terms of also the traded commodity codes, CHS. In the meantime, countries, of course, developed their own national classifications on products. So this was a bit, it became slowly out of date. So now we thought this revision of the industrial statistics manuals was also a good opportunity to revise, to discuss this topic and see what the task team thinks about this list of industrial products, if it's still relevant, and yet if yes, then how we should go about it. There's only one restriction, which is an important restriction, is that this list of products is part of the international family of statistical classifications. So there's a compendium or a catalog of official classifications. So ISIC is there, CPC, and many others. And the list of industrial products is one of them. So that means it doesn't mean we cannot change it. I think it's encouraged to change it or to decide what to do, but it needs to be done in consultation with the custodians of this family of classifications. There's also, parallel to ours, there's also a UN committee of experts on international classifications. So we also need to work together with them in either direction. If we decide to retire it, they need to be informed and agree. If we decide that we need to update it, they also need to be informed and agree, and then probably do a work program together between the 2 groups to see how we need to move forward. From our side in UNIDO, we inherited a data product, a database. We call it ComDB, database of industrial commodities or industrial products, where recently we started sending questionnaires to the statistical offices of all countries requesting information for this in value and volume term. So unfortunately, and we faced this challenge that the list was in CPC 1.1, which by now nobody uses or almost no one uses. And it was a bit difficult to establish correspondence forward, especially with the CPC 2 and now 3 already, or with the Prodcom list used by Eurostat or other national classifications or regional classifications. So we think that this is the reason why the response has been very low. we have received information, but a lot of the times the countries cannot really respond according to this list, or they don't respond at all, or if they do, it doesn't really fit their current statistics. So I think it's also urgent to discuss how to move forward with this. I didn't prepare a presentation because one of the items later, I believe, is tomorrow in the afternoon. There will be a specific item, D7 and D8, on the list of industrial products. So at that time, I will have a presentation. We can discuss more in detail and agree on the way forward. So that's it from my side, Christine.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Are there any initial reactions on that? Okay.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Dalip and Fernando, for just a brief update. So from my point of view, as I mentioned, we set the standards. So it also means that we can say that we don't need 3 manuals, we can only need 1. Right, so this is on the table, right? So we don't need to follow what our predecessor did, but we can make new changes. Especially that we need to separate between the conceptual framework and compilation issues. The reason is that conceptual framework will be very stable, right, for the next 20 years, for example, as long as SNA is not updated, whereas compilation or compilation methods could change anytime. There is a new data sources, it changes, right? So there is a logic to separate them or decouple them into 2 different publications or several publications. So this is also the time we reflect, because if you look at our previous manuals, is a mix, right? So even in IRIS, is a mix between a concept and compilations. In IRIP is also a mix, right? So this is a time for us to to decouple them and put the concepts together and separate the compilations elsewhere, with the intention that the compilation can be updated more frequently compared to the concepts. So this is just to put on the table, so that we don't need to follow what we have already. We can create a new publication. So this is on the table. The mandate that we receive from the UN Statistical Commissions is basically to revise the manuals on industrial statistics. But so we define what is the manual on industrial statistics. We can also put a different naming if we want, because this IR, this international recommendation, seems not. There are other names, right? Some manuals we call it concept and definitions. Some manuals just say manual on something, right? Like a BPM, for example, balance of payment manual. And sometimes they don't put anything, like SNA. They just have 2025 SNA. Usually when I throw this idea, people will say, no, we keep the same name, but we change inside. Because people are familiar already, and usually we don't like to change the name, right? Even though inside is totally changed. Even if you look at the BPM, right? So this is basically not only balance of payment, but there's also investment positions. So during the just to share the story, even during the revision of the BPM, there was an idea to add this investment in there, but people say no, we'll keep the BPM, even though in the long name it's the investment positions. So I just want us to be like more forward-looking, right, rather than trying to keep the same thing from the past, right? This is it's not easy, because sometimes our mind is constructed from our past, right? But the idea is that the concept supposed to be stable, do not change for many years. The compilation can change very fast. And we should be able to update the compilations methods or data sources when the need arises. So this is also something that we should think about it, including, for example, the list of the list of industrial products, right? So it's based on 1.1. So CPC is now 3, right? So we should also plan what happens if there is CPC 4, for example, right? So we cannot, I mean, you already faced the problem that no one compiled in that version anymore. It's the same thing also when the leap may be on the indices. So there's maybe new methods that besides this fixed period and chain, right? So we have something called now multilateral price indices that we can explore depending on the data sources used. And in the future, there will be something else also. So my idea is to put on the table for the next discussion on in the next 3 days is for us to identify collectively which one is the core concept that's we supposed to be stable, and which topic are more into compilation that can change when there's a new methods, new data sources, new way of compiling, and so on. Later on the last day, so we will try to recap all of this. And I mean, we collectively here will saying that, okay, this topic seems a concept and supposed to be stable. And these topics seems more compilations and can be updated frequently. And we will try to work from that angle for the future. Of course, we do not need to decide at the end of the week, because I mean, we set up our deadline, so we don't need to decide if we don't want to decide, but the idea is that we should try to separate between compilations and concept. And finally, just about the deadlines, because we talk about the timelines later on, right? This is also the same thing. The UN Statistical Commissions, they do not explicitly mention the deadlines when we have to submit. And basically, we will tell them when, IRIS and IIRP, IRIIP will be ready, for example, right? But of course, we should not also delay, because people are starting to implement SNA 2025. People are starting to implement the new CPC 3.0 and so on. So I think we will have some proposal and how we can move forward. But again, the deadline is our own deadline, right? So we are the experts, right? So we decide what is the best for us. I mean, quote, as a consensus. Okay, so this is basically just like a thought-provoking idea from my side. So don't stuck with the existing materials. This is the time to explore, right? So, and later on in the afternoon, for example, we have a discussions about scope of industrial statistics. So we will propose a new sectors in there. So some of you say, oh, no, industrial is industrial, and we don't change, but we will try to propose a new thing, and then we should reflect, right? I mean, reflect first before saying no, that's my point. And it's not easy. I mean, just saying that because statistics needs continuity. So adding new sectors on the existing manual could be challenging. But this is the time where we have an opportunity, basically, because no other group will do this except us. So the task team, if we agree on, for example, changing or enlarging the scope, right? So what we can do just to move forward is, because task team is not all countries, right? It's only some countries that are part of the task team members. So if certain topics that we can mark as disruptive, so we will need to go through global consultations, right? So this is the global consultations before statistical commissions. So for example, I mean, just putting the idea, so in the afternoon, if we quote agree to change the scope, so this is a disruptive for countries, right, in compilation of industrial statistics. So we need to have a global consultation, for example, end of the year, just to explain that, okay, this is the rationale why we enlarge the scope, and so on and so on and so on. And then we can ask, do you agree? Do you support or not support? Right. So of course, if most countries say no, right, so we also we cannot just say yes, right? Because at the end, countries will have to say something. Countries meaning the countries, right? The member of the UN. Okay, so again, so this is just like a normal, we call it expert group meeting, but so this is like a really special meeting. This is what I want to say. It's really a special meeting where we can set up new standards if needed. I understand also, I mean, some other region, they may have their own standards, right? Like EU, for example. We also going to discuss this as part of it, right? So we're not going just to saying, okay, let's add accommodation sector in industrial statistics, right? So this is like crazy, and EU will say, most probably say no. But maybe there's some related sectors that related to the industrial statistics that is not yet covered. Right? So I mean, this is just one of the idea that this is the time, this week is the time for us to put everything. Of course, later on, we still have some months for follow-up discussion. Again, we don't need to decide everything this week. But if you want to change something, we have to do it this year, basically, and then we need to have a global consultation on that. And this is the reason why we call it global standards, because every countries will be consulted, right? So it's not like a group of experts that decide, but everyone will decide. I think, of course, if you have questions, let me know whether we can do it online or offline. I will be around until the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marky, for this important intervention. So please keep in mind what Marky has said during our discussions. Is there any comment or question at this point before proceeding to the presentation on the global consultation? Okay, I don't see any reaction. So I think Vaisal is going to make the presentation for the global consultation. I give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Let me try to share the presentation here. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Vaisal from UNST, as Christina mentioned before. So I'll just give a brief overview of the global consultations, which has already been mentioned. And we already, for those who attended the first meeting, we had a virtual meeting on the 7th of May. Maybe a lot of people attended that meeting. We presented this in detail, but it's quite important also to guide our work. So maybe there's no harm going through it again. Basically here, I will just give you the overview of what the process was, because we also have another presentation on the, I think in the 11th agenda item, where we can talk a bit more about the, which are the new topics suggested, for example, or both during the global consultation and also during the, we had some exchanges with members of the task team regarding the topics, for example, which topics they would want to introduce or discuss. Still more, if you go through those material, there are some maybe new formulations or new perspective to those topics. So we can discuss in detail in the 11th agenda item. But here, just for the overview, is that the global consultation was undertaken by UNST and UNIDO, try to see to get this work started, especially with the objective of finding which countries, organizations have the expertise and are willing to contribute to the revision of the guidelines, and also obtain a feedback on the level of importance of each topic, which were initially identified by UNIDO and UNSD. in preparation for requesting the mandate from the UN Statistical Commission. But as I said, it's ongoing work, at least up to this point, where we want to include as many perspectives as possible. So we're also still giving countries opportunities to suggest new additional topics. So the idea, these responses would inform the refinement of our work from now going forward until especially here at the now at the beginning, as we finalize these topics, or we start scoping into them, whether they can be advanced, included or excluded. So this is very important. So the summary was actually, we summarized the results of the global consultation, which were submitted by the end of the year, and submitted a background paper to the Statistical Commission. If you want, you can visit this link. You can see a quick summary about the global consultation. And as I mentioned, we also presented in the first meeting on 7th of May. Just to summarize, we had a good response rate, almost responses from all regions or the world. Strong overall support for the revision, and many countries said it's timely and relevant. And there was a strong support for the topics which were already proposed that time. If you want to see again, by now you already know most of these topics. Also, we had submitted to the Statistical Commission here. Of course, maybe it has changed a little bit now. If you go to the wiki, it's more up to date, the topics we have, because some topics have been merged, maybe one or two. So from the global consultation itself, we had very few additional topics suggested. It was mainly maybe different formulation or perspective, which we can incorporate in the main agenda. So we can still, as we continue this week, we'll see those topics, and as people are introducing, also members of the task team are introducing the topics, they can point out where, if there's some significant deviation from the topic we have now, whether it has to be a new topic or to be made, that's also on the table. So as I said, the results, most of the main results we can discuss in agenda item 11, especially on the new topics or different formulation of the topics. So maybe this is quite, I find this very important as we go forward. In the global consultation, I can already mention that there are some key issues mentioned. We should have in mind that the implementation can be a challenge for many countries, for some countries with limited statistical capacity or resources. So when we're formulating the standards, at least, of course, the standards are ideal, forward-looking, but at the same time, I mean, we cannot completely disregard the implementation. The implementation is important. Then there was, so that's why they say there's a need for flexibility in the application of the guidelines, given data availability constraints. For example, this one we know that usually the recommendations are United Nations recommendation. It's like we aspire them for data comparability. All countries should do that at the world level. But as Mark mentioned already, we have maybe different regions, we have different, maybe different supranational organizations, or there's some regulations in some organizations. So it's possible to have some room of flexibility. Then also the country's request for more practical and operational guidance, including examples and case studies. So this is always challenging. At the same time, we want to be clearly conceptual or methodological, but sometimes say, oh, if it's purely conceptual, it's very difficult to implement. It's very difficult to understand. Can you give case studies, something like that? So in the past, there has been sometimes a mix of compilation, guidance, and concepts. But now I think it's possible with the infrastructure we have. For example, if it's completely maybe separated, sometimes, I mean, it's difficult, but you can try to have these compilation guidance notes separate and maybe put them online, for example. That's what has been, that's the approach which has been taken somewhere else, which maybe we can follow as well. Then, so as I said, the guidance, sometimes they say differentiated guidance be considered to support countries at varying stages of statistical development. For example, sometimes for output, statistical output, there's a T that there are tiers saying this standard output, this is supplementary output. Countries found that very, very helpful. And then we also, of course, we have to ensure continued coherence with international manuals, classifications, and frameworks. So all these were points which were raised in the global consultations. So I think it's important to keep them in mind. This is my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Any questions or comments on the presentation about the global consultation? Okay, so probably everything is clear. Okay, perfect. Yes, thank you, Fernando. So, yes, please, Sudeepa, yes, please. We can hear you.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. And this is a very nice brief about the key issues of industrial statistics. But I want to highlight one of the important issues which may face by by most of the partner countries, because statistics starts from the list of units. You can say it's for the frame like that. So there may be the two types of frames available in respect of India. One is the area frame, another is the list frame. So I want that these issues may be highlighted in some of these cases because you have highlighted business registers. So business registers has the specified intentions, which may not be the similarities of the industrial manufacturing domain, because business and industry, there may be the very thin lineups and very thin issues are there. So I think that issues may be somehow addressed, that if not the business registers, what would be the suitable kinds of things and what is the applicability? Is the area frame would be applicable? Is some kinds of list frame is applicable? I think because Marky has rightly pointed out that this time we would identify or definitely to give up new ideas. So I think this is my humble submission to the committee, that these issues may be highlighted, because frame is the backbone. If you do not have any appropriate frame, any kind of surveys and any kind of statistics specifically do not give its ultimate purpose, do not serve its ultimate purpose. So that's all my submission. Okay, that's all.
Thank you very much, Sudeepa, for this comment. Of course, we take note of that. In my opinion, of course, achieving the best coverage is important. Apart from that, having placed the statistical business register at the central as the central point of business statistics has to do with consistency across different business statistics, so we have to keep this in mind as well. But of course, we will reflect on your comment and we will discuss upon it. Any other comments, or I saw something in the chat, I think. Let me see if there is a question. It's a comment, okay. Okay. This is night provides chance, data collection difficulties. Okay, okay, this is also noted. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments online?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, we can hear you, William. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I joined the meeting late because I had some other urgent meeting and so forth. My concern regarding the international recommendation for industrial statistics, when you see the content inside, especially indicators, which are supposed to be generated from the guideline, you realize that for our case in Uganda, we normally generate those indicators. We have one survey, and then generate those indicators for all the sectors, not only limited to the scope of the industrial statistics. For example, so when we say international recommendation for industrial statistics, vis-a-vis what we see, we think it is only limited to the scope of industrial statistics, which covers only those 4 sectors. So my thinking is, for example,
someone has the microphone on and we cannot hear William. Can you please all mute your microphones, please? Okay, I think now it's okay. So sorry, William, please proceed.
Yes, my concern is when you see the heading, it's called International Recommendation for Industrial Statistics. But when you see the content, the indicators which are supposed to be generated in this recommendation is talk about gross output, we talk about value add, we talk about intermediate consumption. It also talks about short-term statistics like index of industrial statistics. It's like it is only limited to the scope of industrial statistics. Within the scope of industrial statistics, cover only mining, manufacturing, electricity, and water. And yet, for our case, when we conduct some large-scale business surveys, we generate all these indicators for all the sectors, being trade, being hotels, being other services, and yet all these other recommendations is only for industrial statistics. My proposal will be also that maybe they need to change the scope of industrial. Why am I saying so is that, as you said in Uganda, whenever you do some survey like they audit you, actually, when they were asking us, where is the international guidelines guiding you to generate these indicators? We only found these international guidelines were in industrial statistics guidelines. And yet, there we only think about the 4 sectors of the industrial statistics. So me, I would think we need to devise a way of only call it industrial statistics to bring other sectors on the board. That was been my proposal, which should be also discussed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William. It is important to hear from you your national experience on having one survey for covering all sections of economy. Of course, the purpose, the objective of having dedicated guidelines, recommendations on industrial statistics, I think it's obvious because each important section of economy has its own characteristics, and we need to examine them thoroughly and to provide these guidelines. And I'm afraid that not all sections of economy have the same characteristics. But of course, we can discuss further your comment and see how the implementation of these recommendations could be possible in cases like in your country, when there is one survey covering all sections of the economy. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? No. So we can continue. Oh, okay, you can just raise your flag. Okay, for the next time. Yes, please.
Yes, I was thinking about maybe when we finish the proposal of the update of the manual, maybe to identify possible changes in the comparability of the conceptual and methodological concepts to so we can take I don't know how to, I forgot that word, but to keep the comparability in our historical series, because I think that all of us, we have a lot of information and series, so we have to identify if it's going to affect us and the impact of changing the methodological concepts.
Thank you very much. Very good point. It is noted. Thank you. Any other reactions? Not for the moment. Okay. So the next point on the agenda is about subgroups and timelines. Dalit has already shared his views on the IRIIP. So I will share my screen now for a very short presentation I have on IRIS. Okay, it's there. Okay. Okay. So, as you have all understood, there is a lot of work in front of us and we need to be efficient. Of course, as Marky said, the deadline can be decided, but if we take too long, then we will miss the opportunity to align ourselves with the implementation of the new SNA. So it is important to be efficient and to conclude our work hopefully by December 2027. So we will have the revised IRIS approved, or whatever the new name will be, in uns.com in March 2028. So in this respect, the revision of IRIS will be performed more efficiently if we create some subgroups that will focus on specific revision items and broader areas. My initial idea is to have 2 to 3 subgroups for the IRIS revision. And of course, it is important each subgroup to have a coordinator or rapporteur or drafter, something like that. Each subgroup will undertake specific revision items that are plausibly relevant. So, of course, we will discuss about that, which revision topics are more relevant and can be handled by the same subgroup. And ideally, by the end of this meeting on Friday, in our last session, we will be able to have a concrete idea about these subgroups and the distribution of work. Some words about the timeline for the revision. As I said, the terms of reference deadline for completing this work is December 2027. So a proposed planning could be to work. Okay. Okay, sorry, this is my old. Sorry. Okay. So I will set it orally because this is the initial planning before we had the discussion yesterday. So as Marky said, there will be a need for have a global consultation on the changes. So this needs to take place in November this year. So let me try to share the revised timeline. Give me a moment, please. Okay, so this is the updated timeline. So as you can see, my proposal is to have from June till mid-July a discussion and possibly conclusion within the task team on the IRIS outline, the extension of IRIS scope and other major changes. After that, up to October 2026, we can start drafting scoping notes on the extension of the IRIS scope and other major changes. And then to put in November 2026 these scoping notes in a global consultation for their endorsement by all countries. Since we get this endorsement, we can, in January 2027, start undertaking the revision and drafting the revised text for IRIS or for the new recommendations. And to finalize this work in November 2027, having one additional month, December 2027, for final editorial and other small scale changes. To achieve this intensive work, it is imperative to hold an online meeting per month with each subgroup. And of course, in the meantime, exchange information via email at least bi-weekly basis. So this is my proposal. So you can think these ideas along with the proposal of Dalip. And by Friday, we can have a concrete idea how we will proceed with our time planning. So at this point, you can react on these suggestions with questions or comments or I hope you're not shocked by the this strict time planning. Okay, no, I'm kidding.
Maybe just I will.
Yes, please, Dilip, yes.
So I think, as Christina mentioned, that in terms of dealing with the scope of activities that we plan to be part of IRIS, and I think this is one of the most important aspects of this document. So unless we are very clear about what specific changes we are interested in to look at in this particular document, it will be difficult to do justice with that. So from that perspective and the way Marky has suggested, I think these conceptual issues need to be separated, and because they will require much more time than your operational issues. Operational issues, obviously, as on date, whatever are the best practices, it is possible to take a current look and decide. But on conceptual issues, yes, many countries who are having, say, their indices based upon one particular parameter, and if tomorrow we suggest, no, this parameter is not good enough, you should change it to some other one. So those issues are certainly likely to impact the way these indices are compiled, or even for other industrial statistics products. So this is one point I think we must work upon, and maybe we have next 3 days to decide on the conceptual part of it, what we should do. Second one is about this LOIP, list of industrial products. I think the very relevance of it, because previously, in fact, to be frank, I didn't have much idea about LOIP, because we have been mostly dealing with either with CPC or with HSN codes. These are the two major products that we have been using. So unless we find a specific application which is different from others, I can understand HSN is mainly for international trade. So you have to be more specific about the nomenclature and specifications of that particular product when you want to trade. But when you have to do some kind of a survey, my CPC is good enough. Central Product Classification, whatever products we define there, is good enough. So I do not have to go to much more detail as we are doing in HSN. So in that same context, unless we can say some real good application which LOIP will provide, in addition to what we already have in terms of CPC, it will be difficult to justify why should we have it. So I think this is another important open question as to maybe countries can tell how they are using LOIP, and if not, what are the better ways that, okay, for industrial statistics purposes, these are the industrial products that we must maintain, or maybe some kind of there is a concept of minimum list of items. So if you are studying industrial statistics, okay, each country should maintain data on those particular items. So I think again that is a very conceptual area as well, because when we define industry itself, there are as we were facing a challenge, and in fact our manual also identifies, for example, division 33 of the ISIC, which talks about say industrial service or manufacturing service. So that is again a gray area where we have to work upon and see how and where it should be placed, because some countries they do it as part of the services sector, other countries they do it as part of the industrial sector. So what should be our guidelines to the countries which justifies its continuation in one or the other? So those are some of the challenges we must work upon in the next 3.5 days to come out with some significant work activities that we can take up in our, say, subgroups and sub teams that we plan to do. So these are my initial reactions on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dalip. Any other comments? Okay. Question in the chat. Okay. Updating the average needs to keep pace with the updates of SNA and the international standard. I don't know. I cannot see it all now. So is it possible to implement this, especially considering that many countries have still not yet adopted the updates of these standards? Okay, thank you very much, Mohammed, for this question. My immediate reaction to this question is that we need to be ahead of the developments, because if it is already implemented, the SIG and SNA, maybe it will be too late to try to update our standards in industrial statistics, which are an input for national accounts. So, of course, we know the content. Of course, we have not yet implemented, but we know the content. We know the changes that have introduced with this new system and classification, respectively. So we need to proactively work on aligning the recommendations with these standards. I don't know if someone else would like to react on that. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, Dalip, maybe just a few remarks on your comments. So, I mean, your comment underlines the importance of standards, right? So when talking about this, this division 33 of ISIC, which is repair, maintenance, and installation of machineries and equipment. So Dalit mentioned that some countries maybe say that this is not industrial, this is services. That's why they exclude them. So this is important because, I mean, important to be clarified, right? So if it's not clear in IRIS, so we have to clarify this, whether this is included or excluded, right? Because if it's not clear, countries can pick and choose, and then at the end, it's not comparable. If it's not comparable, when you need to compile the statistics, I mean, some countries include, some countries exclude. It's an issue, right? So anything that is not clear from your experience need to be clarified. I think there's also William also made interventions earlier that in some countries there is no distinctions. If it's businesses, it's the same survey for all sectors. And then he made a remark that there is a manual on industrial, but there is no manual on accommodations, for example. Right, so they use the manual on industrial statistics to be applied for other sectors, right? So I think this is later on. Christina from Portugal. We have two Christina here. Christina from Portugal I think we will make some presentation that the UN is developing, kind of like a guidelines for business statistics. So this should cover all sectors. Right. So, and of course, it will take some time because all sectors are very diverse, right? I mean, even we talk about agriculture, it's kind of like a totally different sector in many countries. But we're trying to do this, comprehensively, that all sectors of ISIC should be covered with some kind of like a guidance. Of course, there's a lot of groups deal with this, right? So I mean, we are in the industrial statistics group. There is also a city group called a Forberg group that dealing with the services statistics, but even them is not covering all services. So some services are not covered by this city group, right? There is another group that dealing with the transportation statistics, for example. There's another group dealing with the wholesale and retail, and in this kind like an all over. Right, and then it's a problem for us because we need to have a consistent and maybe simplified approaches, because many of the concepts that we use come from SNA, right? So many manuals kind of like replicating what SNA has been saying. So this is also something that I would like you to reflect. So if the concept is already clear enough in SNA 2025 or even the compilation guide for SNA, we should not repeat it in IRIS. And it's the same thing also with the distributive trade statistics manual, for example. So they should not repeat the same thing also in there, because institutional unit in SNA is clear enough, right? So this is also something that we are trying to simplify. We're trying to not to replicate, but just refer this to the main manual. So I think it will helpful for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marky. We have also a comment on the chat by Fareza Dosm. So it says we are also facing a problem on how to harmonize the CPC product code with HS code. Hope it can be discussed as well. Okay, we note that. Thank you.
Maybe I will.
Yes, Marky, please.
So, I mean, because we also talk about a bit about classification about the CPC and HS that relatively use worldwide, right? Even though in some region they may have some variations of CPC, right? In Europe, I think CPA. And then in HS also there is some extensions from the 6 digit, right? So we call it at the tariff line classifications or nomenclature. So the good thing is that the CPC 3.0 is derived from HS 2022. So there is a correlation already in there, because the CPC, when we review the CPC for or revise the CPC 3.0, the task team, I mean, there's a task team on CPC, just like this task team on the industrial statistics. So the task team decided that for CPC goods, right, so it's purely taken from HS 2022. So there's no longer confusions, basically, right? So there will be, or there is already a correlation tables between this HS 2022 and CPC 3.0. And of course, when we talk about the list of the industrial products, right? So we need also to link with this. Most probably it will be we'll be using a CPC somehow. So there's also in term of just to let you know that in the classification also there's a lot of alignments, if I want to say it, right? So they don't just create a new list of products. So we're trying to align with this already existing list that will avoid, difficulties on when we are need to moving from one classification to another classification. So just a brief preview. So later on, my colleagues, Julian from UNSD, he will make a presentation on the changes in ISIC and changes in CPC. So if you are a classification person, so you should tune in on these presentations, because it will tell you what is exactly changing, changes in that one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments? No. Of course, I think that when it is good to have harmonization between existing new classifications, but there is also the issue of the continuity of an old version to a new one. So it is a challenging issue. It can be a challenging issue. I don't see any other reactions from the virtual or in-person participants. Okay, so now we can move to the next point of the agenda. As we said, in our work, it is important to engage and coordinate with other task teams and initiatives within the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics, and we have the pleasure to have here with us Cristina Neves from Portugal, and she will make a presentation on the UN Handbook on Business Statistics. So the floor is yours, Cristina. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Well, the purpose of this presentation today is to show you what we are doing regarding this new handbook on business statistics, and how can the work that will be done by this task team can fit on this handbook that we are trying to develop under the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics. So the idea of this presentation is to give you an overview about what we are doing, what we are going to plan to do in these 2 years, 2026 and 2027. What are the topics that the technical group, because there is a technical group responsible for developing this handbook, decided to work with, and how all the work that is being developed here can fit or not in the purpose of this handbook. So the first slide for today is regarding the outcomes of the 67 UN Statistical Commission. There was a decision 8 on business and trade statistics, business registers and service statistics, the item 3H of the agenda. And in that meeting, the UN Statistical Commission supported the development of the Compendium of Technical Notes on Business Statistics as a precursor of the Handbook on Business Statistics, and welcomed its action plan, because there was a background document which was exactly this action plan for developing the UN Compendium of Technical Notes on Business Statistics, including a specific concept note that was prepared for this handbook, and both documents are available in the website of the UN Statistical Commission. So you will be able to see it if you think it will be useful. So in terms of development of the research agenda, in 2026, this technical group, which is dedicated to prepare this handbook on business statistics, will focus on defining the research agenda and will monitor the activities to be carried out within the various UNCEPT task teams, namely the preparation, the analysis, and the validation of the topics under development. What we plan to do is not to do anything new in this technical group. What the technical group will do is to rely on the work that is being developed by the different task teams of the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics, because they have the expertise and they decided what will be the topics to be developed between 2026 and 2027. What the technical group will do is to try to analyze the work and the different guidance notes that have been developed by the task teams and included them in this compendium of technical notes, having a kind of a unique structure and have a place where these guidance notes will be available for the public to be consulted and to be used in the production of business statistics. So the technical group for this handbook on business statistics will seek to have the necessary skills and competencies to monitor, to evaluate and validate the contents of the various technical notes or issue papers that have been prepared by the different task teams, as well as to encourage the collection of country practices, because this is one of the most important points, is that we try to have as much as possible country practices, to have them available, because they are very useful for people to understand and to know how to apply the specific guidance in their countries and in their reality. The existing global repository of practices for business and trade statistics, which was launched in June 2025 by the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics, will be our primary means to disseminate the country practices. What we will be developing the handbook of business statistics will be related with the content that will be put in this global repository of practices that already exists, and I invite you all to go through the global repository and see how it is organized. Also the technical group of the handbook on business statistics will work with the UN Statistical Division to establish a dedicated UNST web page where the technical notes that will be part of this compendium will be published. The aim is to create a dynamic area that can be updated as new topics become relevant and are considered useful in the preparation of the compendium of technical notes on business statistics. So we are trying to have a dynamic area where we can add new guidance notes and new technical notes that arise from specific topics that we consider that is relevant to be taken into account. That's why our decision is to start by having this compendium of technical notes before having a specific handbook on business statistics. So our plans at this first stage is try to compile all the relevant guidance notes that are being or will be produced by the task teams on the UN CEPTs, and try to have it all in the one unique place, because they are all related with specific areas of the business statistics. So the idea is to have this, in the first stage, this compendium of technical notes in a dedicated area. Upon completion, the technical notes will be sent for endorsement by the Bureau of the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics before being distributed as a background documents at future UNSC meetings. So because these are very specific technical notes and technical documents, our idea is not to seek for the endorsement by the UN Statistical Commission, is to seek the endorsement by the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics, because this is the committee where the experts are. And on the report that the UN SEPS made annually to the UN Statistical Commission, we will make reference to all these guidance notes that have been prepared and that have been disseminated in this specific dedicated area of the compendium. Since, as I mentioned, the idea of this technical group is to rely on the work that is being developed by the different task teams of the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics, the technical group collects specific information with the task team leaders in order to have detailed timelines on the development of the topics that were identified as priorities, with the support of the task team leads. And we also reinforce the importance of collecting country practices related to the topics under development. And as I mentioned, the UN SEPS Global Online Repository should be seen as part of the compendium and a way to also share the best practices. So whenever you go to the area of the compendium and you are going to seek for a specific guidance note, there will be also a parallel area in the global online repository where all the country practices will be available. And we decided to have the country practices as much as possible separated from the compilation guidance notes and from the guidance notes, because there are always new areas under development and there are always new country practices, and it's easier to update them in a specific area where the country practices will be put without need to revise the specific guidance note on that topic, because as Marky mentioned, the guidance notes are more dedicated to strategic documents that we want to have them fixed and not updated every year. But by doing that, we will have the country practices in another area where we can put and add any new country practices that arise, even if we are only working in very specific new areas still under development. We can put there all the country practices and have all the information updated and available in this global online repository. So since the technical group start working in the beginning of this year based on the decisions made by the UN Statistical Commission in March, we already identified some priority topics to be developed between 2026 and 2027 based on the work that is already under development by the different task teams of the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics. So at this point, the technical group and the task teams of this committee are working in specific guidance notes related with the entrepreneurship, with the large case units, with the development of business indicators to improve the measurement of artificial intelligence, the mainstreaming gender into business and trade statistics and related outputs and analysis, the administrative data and new data sources and machine learning in business statistics, and the integrating informal cross-border trade and international trade conducted by households into business and trade statistics. So these are the 6 main topics that are being already prepared by the task teams and that we plan to be integrated in this compendium of technical notes in a first stage. But based on the discussion that happened in the recent UN Statistical Commission in March 2026, there was a country that identified that we should have another topic to be included in a first stage in the compendium, which is related with the managing of response burden. So at this point, the technical group is work in order to have a specific focus group to be created to discuss and to prepare a guidance note on this new topic. We are preparing a scoping note with the scope, what we want to include in this topic, but this is, of course, a cross-cutting issue topic, and there is also a revision item in this task team that is related with the response burden. So this is something that we are still doing the first step. So this is something that can obviously include people from this task team in this focus group to start discussing this guidance note on managing response burden. We have also a global timeline based on the work that is being already developed by the different task teams. We have the 6 topics here, and we plan to have very specific global consultations based on the topics that are being under development. Because, as I mentioned, we don't seek to endorsement by the UN Statistical Commission, but of course we will seek for endorsement by the whole countries. So we expect to have specific global consultations on these technical notes that will be part of the compendium of technical notes. And because we don't want to have global consultations every month, because global consultations are really burden to the countries, we expect to have a set of specific global consultations, probably one during the spring and other global consultation during the autumn, and we plan to include different technical notes on these specific global consultations. The first one will be on the guidance note or on integrating informal cross-border trade and household trade into business statistics, because this is being already developed, and we plan to launch these global consultations still during this spring, in the next month of June. And in 2027, we expect to have 2 global consultations, one in June, where we plan to include the technical notes on entrepreneurship, mainstreaming gender, and business indicators using artificial intelligence. And by September, October, we plan to have another global consultation on the technical notes on administrative data and machine learning, the large case units, and managing response burden, if we decided that we will take into account this new topic in the compendium of technical notes. So our idea is also to have a common template for the technical notes. So a common template was prepared with key sections to be covered, with identify the colors, the formats, and the style, and we plan to use them in the production of all these specific technical notes. We want to make sure that visually these technical notes belong to the same brand or to the same family and are perceived as preparatory work for the compendium. So when we are looking to these specific technical notes, we can see without any doubt that they are part of the compendium of business statistics. That's why we plan to have this specific template and this specific brand to identify these technical notes. We also prepare a common introduction to be used in the several technical notes, specifying their final purpose, which is their inclusion in the compendium. So there is already a common introduction that was prepared to be part of these technical notes. We also consider that this template will be also used for the IMTS and the MCITS, the International Merchandise Trade Statistics, and the Manual on Statistics on International Trade in Services compilation guidance notes, but we believed it could be also used for the revision items to be prepared by this task team on industrial statistics. So we can discuss this later on, but probably we can take advantage of this common template, and this common template can be used also to prepare the revision items and the guidance notes that will be prepared in this task team. Just to give you an overview of the template that we have so far, the final version of the template was circulated by the technical group, and also by the Bureau of the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics. And the final version contains the following sections. We have this general framework with a generic text on the compendium to be included in all technical notes, as I mentioned. And we will have an executive summary with less than 1 page to give decision makers and non-technical stakeholders a clear and a concise overview of the document's purpose, the major findings, and the recommended sections without requiring them to read the full report. We have an introduction with 1 page maximum. We have the methodological considerations with 1 section per issue because we may have several issues on the methodological considerations. Issues related to classifications could be also discussed and included in this section. And we plan to add boxes with country examples and experience when possible, with just a summary of specific country examples that fit on the methodological issues and considerations that we include in the technical note. We will have also a section on guidance on data sources, also with boxes with country examples, but just summaries of that because the all country practices will be included, as I mentioned, in the global online repository. We will have a section on challenges and way forward, where we plan to recap the main recommendations that we want to include in the technical notes. And we want to include a specific section with specific questions for global consultation, because as I mentioned, we plan to send all these technical notes for global consultation. So it will be good that the group of persons that is preparing these technical notes may include very specific questions that can be used in the global consultations, because it will be easier then to prepare all the global consultations that we want to do. And we will have an annex to include probably a summary of country practices and prepare a more complete version to be included in the global online repository. There will be also a very specific style and some formatting that we plan to be common to all these technical notes. So this is something that we can discuss if can be used also for the revision items that will be discussed and prepared by this task team on industrial statistics. Regarding the dissemination of these technical notes, as I mentioned, we decide with the UNSD on a web page where the generic public can access the final technical notes related to the compendium of technical notes on business statistics. We plan to have a kind of stamp to make it clear that the technical notes are part of the compendium. And the first guidance note to be disseminated will be the guidance note on integrating informal cross-border trade and international trade conducted by households into business statistics. And the common template that I was presented to you will be tested with these specific guidance notes. We also plan to have specific procedures for the endorsement of the technical notes, and this can also be seen as something that we can adapt to all the task teams and to all the technical notes and guidance notes that will be prepared under the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics. So the procedures for endorsement of the technical notes will be, of course, the development by the task team, because as I mentioned, all the technical notes will be developed by the specific task teams of the UN SEPs. We will plan to have comments from the technical group, because this technical group is a broader technical group with expertise from different areas. And as we already seen today, there are topics that are cross-cutting and should be analyzed by persons that have knowledge and skills in other areas, not just on specific industrial statistics or services statistics. So it will be good to have more broad kind of skills and persons involved in analyzing the items to be included in the technical notes. There will be an editing by the co-editors. There will be the global consultation, and as I mentioned, we expect to have a maximum of 2 global consultations per year, one in spring and other in autumn, bringing together the available technical notes that will be ready by that time. And then we expect to have the endorsement by the UN CEPS Bureau. And after that, there will be references in the report of the UN CEPS to the UN Statistical Commission, mentioning that these technical notes have been prepared, have been endorsed by the committee, and they are available in the specific website, and the UNSC will have knowledge of the dissemination of these specific guidance notes. As I mentioned, we don't want the endorsement by the UN Statistical Commission unless there is a very specific topic that needs so, but in most of the cases, this is not the point. There is, as I mentioned, a guidance note on integrating informal cross-border trade. There will be a global consultation in June 2026. We are still and always available to discuss on new topics, on new technical notes to be included in the compendium. As I mentioned, we plan just the activities for the years 2026 and 2027, but we don't expect to have a final compendium or have a final handbook by the end of 2027. This will be just the first phase, and after that, or during this period, we can identify our new topics and new technical notes that can be added to this compendium of technical notes. So the compendium is flexible enough to incorporate more and more technical notes if we think that they fit on the purposes of the compendium and they are related with the business statistics. So our idea is to discuss on new topics to be included in the compendium, and this new task team on industrial statistics and the revision items that we are discussing here can be good candidates to be part of this compendium. So this is something that we should take into account in the discussion of the revision items. We have, as I mentioned, this new managing response burden. There is a scoping note being prepared, and we try to have more countries and institutions involved and try to create a specific focus group. So since we have also a revision item on managing response burden in this specific task team, it will be good to have some of you in this focus group to work with us in the preparation of this technical note on managing a response burden. There is also the idea of having some guidance on well-being and sustainability. So this is something still open to discuss by this technical group. And finally, I would like to mention that the technical group has specific meetings to analyze the ongoing work on the different technical groups, but we also have what we call the intermediate meetings of the technical groups, where we take the opportunity to present to the members of the technical group specific new areas of development that could be seen as future topics to be included in the compendium. So if you think that you have some ideas, or if you are developing some specific project in your country that you think that it can fit on the idea and on the purpose of the compendium, so please feel free to contact us, the UNSD, and we will be more than happy to include your presentation in one of the future intermediate meetings of this technical group. And I think this is the last slide. That's right. So the idea is to bring to you what we are doing and how we can take advantage of the work that is being developed by this task team in the compendium of technical notes on business statistics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina, for informing us on this important work in progress for the technical notes and for the compendium. And I think it is a very good opportunity to synchronize our work to this direction. I have a few, one or two questions for you. So you said, and you gave some examples about the comments that may come from the technical group. If I understood correctly, the technical note on the informal cross-border trade is the first one to be released. So can you give us some examples about the comments that may come? So are there substantial comments that may alterate the content of the technical notes, or have more to do with what you have already said, aligning the content with other initiatives and works. And my second question is if these technical notes have a similar length, or this can vary according to the topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christina, for the questions. Well, regarding the informal cross-border trade, this is a very specific issue, and there is no, we don't have so many skills on that, because this is a new topic and we are trying to develop something new. So in fact, there were no much relevant comments from, not either from the technical group and not either from the Bureau. So what we have now is basically the first version of the guidance note without any substantive comment from both the technical group and the Bureau. But as I mentioned, this is a very specific topic. We don't have so much knowledge on that. That's why I think we don't have so many comments. But there are other topics that we expect to have very interesting comments. And probably we can take advantage of this group, and we can also circulate what we have so far on this guidance note on ICBT and try to have your ideas and your thoughts on that, because this is in fact a very cross-cutting issue, because there are informal economy everywhere in every statistical area. So I think we can do that if you agree, and we can take that on board. Regarding the length, we are flexible enough, so it depends on the topic, it depends on the issue, but we don't expect to have 100 pages guidance note, of course. We already have that in the past. We start with a guidance note, with a small guidance note on integrating business and trade statistics, and we have now a handbook. So sometimes this is life happening, and sometimes it happens, but we don't expect to have a very big technical note, because this is very specific. That's why we decided to separate the technical note from the country practices, because otherwise the technical note will be very big. So we will just have very small summaries of some country practices if they are really relevant to be included in the technical notes, but we will have the country practices is in the global online repository. So we are flexible enough, but we don't expect to have very, very big technical notes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. And let me repeat what Christina said before, that as one of the revision items is the reduction of the response burden. Members of this task team that could be willing to contribute to this work, because industrial statistics are create burden to enterprises because there are some types of data that cannot be found in other sources except by being collected directly. Perfect. So I see we have the hand raised by William. So William, you can have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just wanted to throw more light on cross-border trade, simply because Christina says she has no idea about cross-border. Actually, informal cross-border is a trade existing between two countries where individuals go with their goods to other country without necessarily following the formal procedure where they declare their goods through the customs. They use it through, of course, other sort, or they say, goods cross to another country in small quantities without being declared formally at the custom points. And that's the practice what is common here with the African countries, especially in East Africa, where you find a person from Uganda, actual people from Congo comes to Uganda and buy things, and then they go and sell it back to Congo, or maybe from Uganda on bicycles, or they just carry on head and go and cross without being registered at the customs point. The same apply to border between almost all the neighboring countries. maybe that's something I wanted to bring to the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William. And as we said, this technical note can be distributed to the members of the task team and to provide any comments or they might have.
Yes, and William, if you want to share with us your country practices on that, you will be more than welcome to do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I see the flag of Georgia. Gogita, please.
Thank you very much for your clear presentation. It is really encouraging to see the strong UN Statistical Commission endorsement of the compendium, and the action plan actually reflects a very structured and realistic approach going forward. So I have two questions for you. With the multiple task teams working in parallel in 2026, how does the task group on the handbook of business statistics plan to ensure consistent quality and coordination across the different technical nodes under development? And second question for the guidance on data sources section, will authors receive any guidance on how to rank alternative data sources across countries with different levels of statistical infrastructure? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. Well, the consistency and the work that is being developed by the different task teams, the best of the task teams that we are all under the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics, and the UN Committee of Experts and the UNSD, they guarantee that we are doing a job of good quality. That's why we seek for the endorsement by the Bureau, where we have a lot of experts, including international organizations with experience on these topics, and this is the way how we ensure the quality. And having the different task teams working together in different nodes, it's good because we have different skills in the different task teams, so we have the right persons dealing with the right issues and the right topics. So this is something that we are looking for in the task teams and the Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics. And of course, the same applies to this new task team on industrial statistics. Well, the alternative data sources are a good point. This is something that we already include in the handbook on integrating business and trade statistics, where we are comparing everything. And I think that in all the technical notes, this is part of the template, because the data sources are one of the sections of this template, of this common template that we create for the technical notes. So this is an issue that is included in each of the technical notes. So this is something that we are looking for and that we are developing in all the technical notes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, Mark, please.
Thank you. My question is, first, I'm glad that the collect practices subject was brought up. My question is, if a benchmark work was done to collect the current best practices or not yet? If not, if it was already done, maybe we would like to participate to give our practices in Morocco. Thank you.
This is great. We are always collecting country practices, and what we are trying to do is to have countries to show what they are doing, and because this is considered as the best practices and can be inspiring to other countries to do something similarly. And sometimes in the guidance note, it's difficult to identify that, but if you go to a specific country practices, it's easier for you to understand what you should do and how you should do it to try to take advantage of the work that is being developed by the other countries. So if you want to share your country experiences in this area or in others, please go to the global online repository where we already have a lot of topics there. So if you think you have some advantage in one of these topics, please feel free to share that with us. We will be more than happy to put your experience there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando.
Yes, thank you, Christina, for the update and the summary of the great work being done. Just have a question. So, or I would like to ask for your suggestion on what would be the best way to align the work that we're starting now and the work that is already ongoing or planned in the context of the technical notes, the handbook, and everything. But also taking into account that maybe the scope or the coverage is a bit different, right? Because I assume, since this is just in general on business and trade, maybe it would be a more general scope. Well, maybe we would like to go into specific issues related to industrial statistics. So what would you suggest that, for example, there you mentioned something on administrative, and here there's also a topic here. And later on, we will have also, there's a lot of interest, of course, on the informal and observer economy. I also see that this could be very important note to be included there. So how do you see this working in parallel?
Well, during this week, I will speak about a lot of topics that we are covering already, and I suggest some way forward and how we can include that in the notes that are being prepared. But I think that we are discussing here in specific revision items of topics that are really cross-cutting and that are relevant for many other areas of statistical production. So I think we can take this into account, and in some of the technical notes we can make specific references to some areas or have boxes with very specific examples. So I think we can include some of the revision items of this task team in what we are already planned to do in this technical group. For example, we plan to have this technical note on the large case unit, and we are here talking about statistical units. We are talking about profiling. So this is something that can fit in the large case units, because we are not going to talk about large case units for specific areas of the statistical production, but it can be taken broadly to all the statistical areas. So I think this is the way we can include our needs in the industrial statistics in what we plan already. And of course, we can have other technical notes to be included in the compendium. One of the advantages of this compendium is that we are going to have a specific place where they all will be available. So it will be easier for the users to look for something and to find it in this specific website of the Compendium of Technical Notes on Business Statistics. And industrial statistics is also business statistics. So I think that everything is related. And I think we can find a way to include some of these needs in the technical notes that we already planned for the Compendium of Technical Notes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, yes, so one moment, please. There are two ways. One way is to contribute in planned already technical notes, and the other is to see whether there is a need to have a dedicated technical note on industrial statistics. So this means that every technical note that is ready can be shared with us in order to provide some comments and okay, thank you so much. David, please.
Yeah, I think you already mentioned this only I was perhaps planning to say, but yeah, I mean, this was a wonderful presentation. And I think because, as you mentioned, industrial statistics or industrial sector is just one part of the business sector. So in that sense, only the operational issues that we are likely to have. For example, SBR. In most countries, SBR will have not only business as well as industries as well. So from the same set of records, you can generate the two statistics. So if the base is same, a lot of ground which you have already covered, if that can be used for industrial statistics as well. And many of the cross-cutting areas which you suggested, I think we do not have to do it again. So from that perspective, I think we have to understand that how to best utilize whatever work has already been done. We should be in touch with you how to take on board those things. And the last point, I think the conceptual issues, I think that is where some difference will come, because we will be specifically talking about industrial statistics. And there, what kind of concepts we should use for collection of that particular data. Those we need to certainly identify and specifically discuss in this committee, so that when we bring out whatever document in terms of whether guidance notes as you are doing, or in terms of an overall document that we were planning. So we have to bridge that gap, what is the best way forward for our task team. So that once we go ahead, maybe in the next 3-4 days, will be more clear to us. Yeah, thank you.
Just to mention that the co-leads of all the task teams of the UN SEPs are part of the technical group, and the technical group is open to everybody that wants to work with us. So if you feel free to contact Faisal if you want to be part of the technical group, or if you are interested in some of the topics that we are discussing here, because we are an open group and it's good to have more and more skills and people involved in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments or questions? No. Okay, let me check the chat. No. Okay. So we're ahead of the time, but this is good. Okay. We have reached the final point of the agenda for the morning session, which is about SDG indicators. Yes. Should we go? Yes, yes. And this is a presentation by UNIDO. So, Fernando, thank you.
Time zone issue.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I was confused. I thought that the lunch break was later. So we will have now the lunch break, and we will resume at, maybe we can do it 1/4 earlier. Yes. So we can start again at 13:45. Okay, Central European Time. Okay. So see you in 1 hour and 10 minutes. Thank you.